At this point, we'll move on to a report of the Operations Committee, which I chair. Today's meeting of that committee is being held in public session in its entirety. At this point, I'd ask Karen to advise those present of the composition of the committee and any commissioner recusals on the first matter before the committee at today's public meeting.
Thank you. The committee is comprised of yourself, Chairman Degnan as chair, Vice Chairman Reckler as vice chair, and Commissioners Laufenberg, Luber, and Steiner as members of the committee. All committee members are present today, and there are no recusals required on the matters.
Okay, the first matter for discussion is the Title VI Program Triennial Report to the Federal Transit Administration. Lash Green.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today I'm presenting information on the agency's 2015 Title VI program, which adheres to Federal Transit Administration, or FTA, reporting guidelines. Since October 2001, the FTA has awarded over $3 billion in grants to the Port Authority and PATH for public transportation-related projects. The proposed program, which we shared with the FTA and were assured met their reporting requirements, will ensure the continued eligibility to receive FTA grant funds. This program is retrospective as to what we've done over the past 3 years and prospective as what we will be doing going forward. As a recipient of federal assistance, the Port Authority and PATH must comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which requires that no person in the United States on the grounds of race, color, national origin be discriminated against or be excluded from participation in, denied the benefits of, or otherwise subjected to discrimination in any program or activity of a recipient as amended by the Civil Rights Restoration Act. Title VI assures public services, including transportation services, are provided in a non-discriminatory manner. We're requesting that the board approve the Port Authority's 2015 Title VI non-discrimination program, including the public transportation standards, policies, monitoring program, and results, and delegate upon the Executive Director of the Port Authority and the President of PATH the authority to approve Title VI programs and related requirements in the future. U.S. Department of Transportation non-discrimination regulations require, among other things, that recipients of federal assistance document their compliance with the regulations by submitting a Title VI program to the FTA once every 3 years. In September 2012, the Port Authority and PATH submitted and received approval on its Title VI program reports in accordance with the then applicable federal guidance. In October 2012, the FTA issued a new circular which included new requirements. Our next program, which is due in 2015, must adhere to the new circular. Standard areas covered in the report include our public outreach and involvement activities, language assistance for persons with limited English proficiency, procedures for tracking and investigating Title VI complaints, collection of demographic data on agency beneficiaries, as well as an equity evaluation of any major service or fare change. The FTA's revised circular includes for the first time a mandate that the governing board or an official responsible for policy decisions approve the recipient's Title VI program and its related public standards, policies, and monitoring requirements and results prior to the submission to the FTA. Another new requirement relates to conducting equity analysis to try to prevent disparate impact discrimination. The board is required to adopt the following resulting policies and standards: policy on major service changes, policies on disparate impact, disproportionate burden for minority and low-income populations, system-wide service standards and policies, including standards for vehicle load, headway, and on-time performance. PATH defines a major service change as a change of one or more services that result in at least a 25% change in revenue vehicle miles within the 12-month period or the elimination of a service route. Disparate impact and disproportionate burden is defined as a service change or fare change that results in a difference of 10 percentage points or more between the percentage of minority population affected by the change and the percentage of non-minority population. If disparate impact is found, PATH will take appropriate steps to avoid, minimize, or mitigate such impact. If PATH implements a major service change, despite the finding of disparate impact, PATH will provide justification for the change and demonstrate that there are no other practical alternatives. As required by the circular, we engage the public in the development of the policies and related thresholds, which if met, would trigger us to perform equity analysis. During this reporting period, we did not have any major service change that met the threshold. Under the FTA's new circular, the Port Authority and PATH are transit providers. Transit providers fall within two categories. Transit providers with 50 or more fixed route vehicles operating in peak service in an urbanized zone area with a population of 200,000 or more, and transit providers that operate a public transportation service below the 50 vehicle threshold. Port Authority's PATH service, operated by a private entity on behalf of the Port Authority, consists of 5 boats that run between Hoboken and Lower Manhattan. Consequently, the Port Authority is only required to set system-wide standards and policies for this service. PATH, as a transit provider operating a commuter rail service exceeding the 50-plus vehicle threshold, must set system-wide standards and policies, collect and report demographic data, evaluate service and fare changes, and establish a transit service monitoring program to monitor performance of PATH's rail service system relative to system-wide service standards and policies to determine if PATH has provided service equitably to minority and non-minority customers. Commissioners, your approval of the Port Authority's 2015 Title VI program and the agency's continued adherence and compliance with the U.S. Department of Transportation non-discrimination requirements ensures our ability to receive federal aid to help fund public transportation and other vital projects that benefit the region and all constituents. In addition, I'm seeking authorization to delegate to the Executive Director of the Port Authority and the President of PATH the authority to approve future Title VI programs and related requirements prior to submission to the FTA. Commissioner, I request that you advance these items to the full board today for approval.
Thanks, Lash. Are there any questions with respect to that presentation? If not, can I have a motion from a committee member who is not recused on the matter to move the item forward to the full board?
I'll make a motion. Second.
And a second. Any objections? Hearing none, the motion's passed.
Thank you.
No, apparently we don't, because we're only referring this to the board for full consideration, Dave. But I'd now ask the corporate secretary to advise of any commissioner recusals on the next matter before the committee, which is the quarterly overtime update.
Right. There's no action required on the item, so therefore no recusals.
Okay, Stephanie? This item is for information only, so there's no vote is going to be required.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I will be presenting the 2015 first quarter overtime results. The first quarter results are better than planned for core overtime. These results were also better than the actuals for first quarter 2014. Core overtime covers recurring operational, maintenance, construction, and security workload, and excludes snow and ice and other emergency hours. Management focus continues to influence positive overtime results given mitigation strategies and the reset of the 2015 baseline. As you can see, the overall agency core performance was better than 2014. 23% or 101,000 hours below 2014 levels. We also were 1.3% or 4.6 thousand hours below plan. Civilian performance was 14% below plan, and that's an equivalent of 25,000 hours. Police department performance was 14% or 21,000 hours over plan. These were offset by civilian performance. In total, the agency worked 541,000 hours through the first quarter. Those total overtime expenses for the quarter were $61 million, which is 18% of total labor expenses, and $12 million over plan. The net impact after recoveries through flight fees, grants, and other reimbursements is approximately $6 million. If we look at the 2015 first quarter snow and ice summary, it's worth noting that the plan was developed based on a best practice model of a 5-year average. We reviewed the 5-year expenditures, and the budget was equivalent to an average of 9 events with light accumulation. This was a very heavy snow season. Weather events were very significant. Most events were of light accumulation as anticipated. However, we had 7 of the 24 events which were multi-day events with substantial accumulation. The snow and ice performance exceeded plan. 35% of total agency overtime hours were represented by snow work. 191,000 hours, or 73% of the overage, was attributable to snow and ice. We were a total of $13.4 million over plan as it pertains to the snow and ice element of the budget. Again, with regards to weather events, we used best efforts to estimate snow, and then, since it's mandatory work, it was executed. A number of management initiatives are underway, spearheaded by the Overtime Steering Committee. There are 4 elements, major elements to the management plan. Those include the departmental mitigation plans, the integrated absence program, which seeks to minimize unplanned absence. We are also doing a peer review with our sister agencies, as discussed at the last overtime update, and we're implementing technology solutions that help us best manage the program. All told, the internal partners across the agency validated and implemented the departmental strategies, which were specific and focused on the conditions that we faced. We do contemplate that there will be some aviation challenges due to anticipated FAA requirements. And we've also initiated the deep dive that I talked about last time I gave the update with regards to the PATH program. That deep dive has been launched, and we will continue to monitor closely this program. Other departmental mitigations that are underway includes the greater use of part-time staff. Any of the mitigations that pertain to staffing are done in conjunction with our HR partners and the respective departments. Commissioners, it's our intent to continue to aggressively manage the overtime budget. We are proactively managing the workload to identify and challenge workload requirements, as well as the best ways to utilize resources that are available. We also intend to execute best efforts to mitigate the excess snow events without impacting safe and secure operations. Subject to your questions, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any questions or comments by any commissioners? Good report, thanks. Good progress. It's a work in progress, though, and it will require your continued commitment. But I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
We need Mother Nature to cooperate with you next year.
Yeah. That'd be helpful. That concludes the Committee on Operations.